everybody, and welcome to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig today. He should be back tomorrow. We have a lot to get to today, including an MLB lockout that's now completely imminent. We had the craziest upset in French Open history, maybe tennis history today. We'll get to that briefly. A lot of things with Josh Jacobs, update on that story. Fans, a lot to get to, but we have to start at the biggest thing going on, and that is the Western Conference Finals Game 6 tonight, in which the Thunder go on the road to face the Spurs. The Spurs are 3.5-point favorites in the game tonight. And I have to address something before we get into the game. And that is Knicks fans and this thought that because the Knicks have played so well, and yes, they have, and by point differential, this is the best basketball run any of us have ever seen. And it doesn't matter if you're 100 years old or 10 years old watching me or listening to me. This is the best we've ever seen by teams blowing somebody out. So credit to the Knicks, full credit. I am not a hater by nature, and therefore I cannot take away from anything that the Knicks have done on the court. But there is a mistake being made out there that because the Knicks have played well, because the Knicks will have the 9 days off, because we're still 6 days out from game 1 of the NBA Finals. That'll be Wednesday at 8:40 will be pretty much the start time for all the games. Make it nice and simple, ABC this year. So because of that, there's this notion out there that it doesn't matter who the Knicks play. And I am telling you, that is a gigantic mistake if you're saying that. I don't know where that came from, but of course it matters who you play in the finals. We cannot pretend that because the Knicks have done a tremendous job after being down in the series to the Atlanta Hawks, because they beat the Sixers with Joel Embiid on one leg and the Cavaliers that have James Harden on the team, that somehow victory is assured. That's where I think things go too far, okay? Yes, the Knicks have been on a great run. The celebrities are everywhere. And right now, I will say, coming up to New York City every single day, this is unlike anything I've ever seen as far as fan interest. And I've seen the Yankees when they were really good. I've seen it all. Giants, all of it. This is different, I will admit, with the Knicks. But none of that matters once the game starts. How excited fans are. I mean, look at this. How excited fans are. It's pandemonium up here. And that I give Knicks fans credit for. But once the game starts, those sea of people are not responsible. So if we're going to be honest, the question becomes about who the Knicks should play, who the Knicks should want to play. And you guys should care about this. And the choice is SGA or Wemby. The question is Thunder versus Spurs. To me, the answer is extremely clear. I mean, look at SGA. SGA in his prime versus a young Wemby that clearly is running out of gas from the physicality of a series, okay? And that guy is the future, as I mentioned. And the Spurs have defied the odds, even making it this far with this many young players. But the answer is clearly the Spurs if you're a Knicks fan, because you see what's happening. While the Spurs have the most dynamic individual and the future of our sport in Wemby, you see that OKC is clearly the more consistent, more seasoned, and more veteran team. That's just the way that it is. And for that reason alone, you should want to play the Spurs. Now, don't let Charles Barkley's talk about the big women in San Antonio discourage you also. You know Knicks fans are going to travel. Ask yourself this. Now, this is not a great choice. It's not the Lakers, okay? It's not the Heat. It's not a great city. But do you really want to fly into Oklahoma City, or you want to fly into San Antonio? You'd rather go to Texas than you would Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma, I never thought Oklahoma as a state actually made sense. Why do you have big old Texas and that little itty-bitty Oklahoma off to the side anyway? It doesn't make sense to want to go there. So clearly you should want to play the Spurs if your goal is a championship. Now, for non-Knicks fans, we don't have to care, okay? I think the better series, though, if I'm being honest, the better series at this point, the series that might become a classic. If you want to see something like the Cavs comeback against the Warriors and have that special 6 or 7 game series, the Jordan Bulls over the Utah Jazz, where somehow they single covered Michael Jordan twice at the end of games, and no one holds that against the late Jerry Sloan, rest in peace, he's in the Hall of Fame. He single covered Michael Jordan at the end of the game. Could you imagine them doing that? Could you imagine that? Just as an aside, real fast, I don't mean to do this. Could you imagine LeBron James or any other star, SGA, walking the ball up, walking into a shot with one-on-one coverage with no double team? Yeah, they let that happen with Michael Jordan 2 years in a row, 97 and 98. Look it up. I cannot believe this ever happened. But the best series available is clearly for the Knicks is to play the Spurs, who are not physically ready yet. And you're seeing it. They're 3.5-point favorites in the game tonight. Maybe we get a game 7. I think it ends tonight and we'll be getting ready. But if you're a Knicks fan, tonight, what you need to be rooting for are the Spurs. That is clearly who you'd rather play. Yes, Wemby's the future, but you see, he'll have the 30-point game one night, and you see he looked physically beat up. With the way that the Knicks foul, the way that the Knicks go at people physically, and the way that they're playing right now, I think they beat the Spurs in 4 or 5. I really mean that. As great as I think Wemby is and going to be, as great as he's going to be, physically, I don't think he's ready to be a grown man. Okay, we've talked about this throughout NBA history. It's one of the only things that's changed. With LeBron coming into the game post-Jordan and ball movement being the thing again. And then we know what happened when Curry comes into the game and completely changes it with the three-point shooting. One thing has remained consistent, and I've said it many times on this show. Men win in the NBA and boys don't. You can take isolated times where the kid was the Robin, not the Batman, like Magic Johnson when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was literally league MVP. Like Kobe Bryant when Shaq was clearly the Batman. Not later Kobe when he was the main guy on his own titles. Those first 3, Shaq was Batman, young Kobe Robin. You're asking Wemby to be Batman at 22? It doesn't happen. If you're a Knicks fan, you'd rather do that because you don't want any issues with SGA. You don't want to see this Thunder's team, okay? You know how good they are. They've been tremendous. They've been tremendous throughout these last 2 years. And be honest, in a game 6 at the Garden, who would you rather be facing at this point? A rookie point guard or a second-year guy in Castle and Harper Jr. or SGA with the ball? The answer is very simple, and I'll say it again. If the Knicks play the Spurs based on their youth and their lack of experience, the Knicks win that series in 4 or 5. If it's the Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't know if the Knicks win it at all, and for that reason, the Knicks should be picking picking the Spurs, picking against OKC, and I don't think it's close. But I also want to give the Knicks credit right now because there's only one flaw with this run so far, and we showed the video earlier. So many of the fans have been outside the arena. And inside, you're seeing celebrities in the first row, the third row, back to the 11th, 12th row because it's so popular. These fans have been, as you see on your screen, have been outside. And to me, and they're having a great time out there. And the city is on fire. But to me, not enough fans have been inside the building. Credit to the Knicks. Now, 500 fans for these games coming up in the finals next week it's going to be a lottery, obviously, and it's going to be a charity. I think 250 are going to go to underprivileged children. I believe the other 250 will go into a different category, but you're talking about the Dreamers Foundation. That's how you make the long-term fans. No disrespect to any of those celebrities that are there that have been traveling, Chalamet and Stiller and all those guys. But the regular fan is really what it's all about. Credit to the Knicks. And I understand there are people saying, well, it's only 500. 500 is better than 5. 500 is better than none. To have 500 real fans, I don't care if they're in the rafters, and 500 regular people to be able to say, I saw the Knicks in the finals for the first time since 1999. Or even better if they were able to win it in 5 or 6, to go out there and say, I saw the Knicks win the championship in game 6. I got to see the Knicks win a championship. To me, that's That's just tremendous. That's worth the weight in gold. The Knicks have done a lot of things right this season. I hate to say it, both on the court and off the court, they've done a lot of things. Credit to the Knicks ownership for allowing this many regular fans into championship games. Credit to you, but you want to play the Spurs. Back here on the Craig Carton Show, Tyrone Johnson in for Craig Carton. A lot to get to today. And yesterday Craig and I discussed the charges, or what we thought were going to be the charges against Josh Jacobs. He was arrested for domestic violence. And at the time we were recording the show, or doing the show live yesterday, there was a whole list of charges. It appeared he was going to be charged with 3 misdemeanors and 1 felony that included the word strangulation. Well, as you can see on your screen now, Josh Jacobs has been released with no charges whatsoever. So again, we don't know. They still obviously can press charges, and this may not go away, but there is a chance now, since Josh Jacobs was brought in and released with no charges, that this could be the end of that story. And again, we've seen it just recently, in the NFL, where sometimes these things have legs and sometimes these things don't. Now, to Josh Jacobs, his attorneys also released a statement, and that we can put on the screen there, as you can see. And they're just basically saying they're very happy that Josh Jacobs was released without any charges, and they were saying that it would be clear that that he's innocent. And that's what his attorneys are supposed to say. We also now have some more information about what led to the arrest. So apparently, allegedly, again, this is all alleged, but we'll get to a larger point in just a moment. What happened allegedly was Josh Jacobs drove in his car to the particular person, or the alleged victim's home. There was an altercation loud enough for a neighbor and for the assailant to both call the police. Now, that could be because of volume. That could be for a lot of things. And then he allegedly fled the scene in his fancy car, and then they brought it all the way to here. So, again, he was arrested but was not charged. So, again, this could all just go away. Everything is alleged. But whatever did happen was loud enough for both the alleged victim and a neighbor who was not in the home with them to both call the police. Fine. And that's where we're at. But this is the part that really bothers me about these kind of situations, because in a perfect world, they never happen. And I still hope this Josh Jacobs did not do anything, because it's better for a man, especially a big, strong NFL football player, to not have hit or strangled a woman 100% of the time. And if this person made some sort of false allegation, if the allegation is false, then whatever punishment that she should get, I hope she does get. I want to make that part very clear. And again, I'm going to say this. If there are marks on her throat, that would be enough for me to say, well, Josh Jacobs shouldn't automatically go to prison, because I'm not a DA and I don't make these decisions. It wouldn't sit right with me to have a man who did that playing in the NFL. I just want to make that clear. I also don't want an innocent person in prison, because that would be awful as well. I think we can have common sense about this conversation. But what I'm seeing online, and I know it's a mistake almost always to look online, I hate to see how the alleged victim is already being destroyed, mainly by Packers fans. Because this is what I hear. I'm an East Coast guy. Most of my time I've spent Philly, New York, but I've been up to Boston, D.C., East Coast sports. This is kind of the mentality that we have, where it's when it all costs and things like that. I understand that mentality. But I've been told that Green Bay Packers fans, I got green on today, are gentle, and that's just that nice Midwest thing. And look, if you go to Lambeau, you can park in somebody's lawn and you pay them, and they'll cook food for you. They're so nice. The Packers fans, Packers Nation is so kind. Look what they do when they have the draft. They're so nice people. Yet they are destroying this woman. Destroying them before we know anything. Because again, it could go either way, okay? A neighbor was concerned enough to call the cops. At the same time, the police didn't press charges. So I recognize that there's a wide range of what could have happened in this case. But what bothers me is when we don't use common sense, okay? We know there are times when people aren't charged because they're still getting evidence. There's times where a person can recant their story. There's a lot of things that would delay someone being charged, and we don't know the answer yet. But if Green Bay Packers fans are as sweet and nice and kind as they say they are, why are they already trying to destroy the victim or the alleged victim before we actually know anything? And this is something that troubles me about pro sports for a long time. It's troubled me about it, and this is why I hate when pro athletes, the vast majority who never get in these situations. Derek Jeter was around New York City for 100 years. Not a single allegation like this. And the vast majority of athletes, that's the same thing. But the troubling thing for me is, because we want our teams to win, I think all of us at different times to varying degrees take it too far. And taking it too far to me is always the problem, okay? Let's say it was just a disagreement, there was an argument, things were said or whatever. Of course, then Josh Jacobs shouldn't go to prison. But before we know, why are we so comfortable? Why are we just so comfortable perhaps ending a young woman's life and trying to make it to where she can't be seen in public before we know the answer? Do we want to win that badly? Do we want to win that badly to where even if the person may have done something terrible, we want to almost discourage, really at the end of the day, we're trying to discourage accusations so that our players can play on Sunday or can play that next day. And that's the part of it that always doesn't sit right with me when it's these pro athletes. Because be honest with yourself. If that was your son, okay, if that was your son and you're a father and your son was even accused of that, you would absolutely support your son and you love your son. But I know for a fact that my dad would pull me to the side and say, okay, why are you around somebody where they're even making this accusation? Did you do anything that was in there to perhaps cause this? And instead, there's such a pendulum the other way where it's like that person has to be exterminated because how dare they affect our football Sundays? That's the part where I think we all go too far. And I recognize that the NFL now beats church. But there has to be accountability, and we should wait and see before we decide that the victim, the alleged victim, is the problem. And I don't think going online and having a smear campaign and saying that she does this, that, and the other thing is going to be productive. And if you're incorrect and Josh Jacobs is charged, then what do we do then? I don't think we need to tweet all the time. I think sometimes we need to put the phones down and act like normal human beings. We don't do it enough. We do not do it enough, and it's a real problem.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig. He'll be back tomorrow. So I have good news and bad news as far as Major League Baseball right now as we sit here in late May. You know, on the other side of Memorial Day, we know 4th of July, and then the All-Star break are always sort of those tent poles. Like usually if your team's above 500 at Memorial Day, they have a shot. Usually if they're under 500 at Memorial Day, even though there's a lot of months left, your season's kind of done. It's just kind of how it usually works in baseball. It's one of those arbitrary dates that work out. So let's get to the good news first. Hey, as much as people talk about Skeens and so many pitchers, the best pitcher in the sport right now is a guy that no one really talks about, even though he finished second in the Cy Young. Christopher Sanchez from my Philadelphia Phillies. What a month he had. He just had a scoreless month. Now, you can all you want down there, producer Ethan, but the best pitcher in the sport right now is my guy, Christopher Sanchez, who just went. He did not give up a run this month, okay, the whole month of May. He made his last start. He's going over 7 per start, something that's unheard of in today's game. Had a complete game shutout. And then let's look at scoreless months in the history of sports before I get to the unfortunate bad news. So this has happened twice in the modern game. Earl Hershiser did in September of 1988, and now Christopher Sanchez in May of 2026. Earl Hershiser had 34 strikeouts during that month. Christopher Sanchez also had 45 strikeouts in the scoreless month in which he went over 7 per start. The best pitcher in baseball right now, and I don't think it's particularly close, is my guy, Christopher Sanchez. Learn about him, learn to love it, learn to like it, because he's not going anywhere, and that's good news for the sport when we get new stars that emerge. And now let's get to the bad side. So the players yesterday, the MLB Players Association, released their side of the proposal as we wind down this current collective bargaining agreement. And there's a lot of different things, but they're trying to increase the minimum salary because some people say that they don't do enough for the young players. Well, they would increase the minimum salary year by year to where those guys now would be compensated much more in line with the minimum contracts of other sports, being that, baseball does have the most games. They also have some things where they would have a penalty for teams like Tampa Bay, like Pittsburgh historically, like Cleveland, that don't spend a certain amount of money. They would then have to pay a tax that goes into the players' funds. Currently, if you're under the minimum in basketball or the NFL, that money then goes to the player. So if for some reason the Jets or some team, the Eagles, whoever they were, spent under the floor, that money then would go to the players. Right now, baseball has no floor. So those are the things, some of the things that they're laying out there, getting an arbitration earlier, free agency earlier, the normal stuff players would ask for. And there are reasonable things to ask for. But later on today, the owners are going to counter with their move, and apparently they're going to have a hard cap. They're going to have a floor. We'll see what that floor is because, again, currently there is no floor, and all these other details. The last time that the owners officially on paper asked for a cap was the last time we didn't have a World Series, and that was the strike in '94. So we're going to have a World Series this year, but I'm going to say it right now. With what the owners do today, and they're going to talk about expansion and bringing in $5 billion when Portland comes in and Nashville and all these other teams. And we're going to talk about other stuff with revenue, but we're not going to have a World Series next year because there's going to be a lockout. No, not a strike, a lockout. The owners are going to see what the players are asking for, ask for a cap, and then say, if you don't take this, we're not going to play the sport. And that's what's unfortunately coming. The good thing is we will conclude this season. But I don't know if we're going to have, we're not going to have a baseball season next year. We're not going to have it. And the players will end up taking the blame, but that's going to be incorrect. It is 100% on the owners. That's why we're not going to have a baseball season next year. And that process does not begin in October or November. That process to not having a season next season will begin today. You have the only sport, again, where there's no minimum, and they're going to go to the players and say, yeah, there should be a maximum, and we'll dictate what the minimum is going to be, but the minimum is not going to be good. And you have a sport right now where the Phillies and the Yankees and the Mets write checks to other teams, like the whatever the A's are now before they get to Vegas, like Pittsburgh, like Tampa, and Kansas City. And they take that money and they just put it in their pockets, these owners. Okay? The big owners pay the little owners. And rather than fix that system, they're going to punish the players. The players aren't going to say yes. And now, already 18 months in advance, we already know we're not going to have a World Series next year based on what the owners are going to do today. And I hate it. But that is the truth. So enjoy baseball while we can. We'll have these NBA finals, and then it'll be full baseball for a few months. But there will not be baseball next season. And while your instinct will be to blame the players that it's not on them, it will be solely on the MLB owners.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock.
Oh my, there's a problem.
On the outside, side by side. And he's lost control of the book. Hopes and dreams of winning here. Yes!
Get ready for round one, the Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig. He should be back tomorrow. So with this next conversation, I want to say that if I left you out, okay, from this next conversation, it's because you guys aren't that great a sports town or your team already has won. So if you feel left out with what's coming up now, it's just one of two things. Either you won, so you should just be happy. For example, like the Eagles aren't on this list coming up. We're not going to talk about them coming up because they've won recently, or the Chiefs. Or you're just not that good a fan. But with all the buzz around the New York Knicks, it got me to thinking about fan bases that actually deserve a championship, okay? What are some fans that deserve a title? And I'm going to lay out fans from all the sports that deserve a title because of how great the fans have been versus the return they get for all their trouble, okay? And number one is the New York Knicks. It's been over 50 years. Knicks fans have been loyal, okay? They have the building that's supposed to be the Mecca, yet there's no championships in the Mecca ever. Hasn't been one since the 90s. Knicks fans have been there time and time again. They flat out deserve a championship. Next one on the list, the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns literally lost their team. So they're in a really tough spot because if they've been bad forever, but if they don't go, they know that there's probably some city waiting to take their team. Portland doesn't have a football team. Next thing you know, they're there. Who knows where they end up going? So they're in a terrible spot where they have to support the team. They can't stay home like Mets fans and other fans have, but they have to go. So they deserve a championship. They've been very loyal. Mets fans, listen, I don't like the Mets, okay, the team. But Mets fans travel well. They really care. They've had a lot of heartache since 1986. In fact, I was looking up how many times did the Mets, they're not classy, but when was the last time the Mets made the playoffs 2 years in a row? There's very short times. I don't think there's any time where they made it 3 years in a row. This is New York City, and you're going up against the Yankees. So again, I don't like this new Mets owner. I don't like this Mets general manager. I don't like the Mets. But Mets fans deserve respect, and they absolutely deserve a championship. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, it's been 59 years. Hockey is still Canada's sport, although America did just handle their business in the Olympics and it's quickly fading for you guys north of the border. Toronto is the biggest Canadian town for hockey, and they've been 59 years and they're not winning it this year. The Maple Leafs deserve a championship. All right. The Cleveland Guardians. Now, we know what they were called before. I'm not going to be that person, but I remember Tommy and Alomar and all those guys before. Kenny Lofton, one of my favorite players ever, and should have stayed on the Hall of Fame ballot far longer. Producer Ethan disagrees. I can talk Kenny Lofton being into the Hall of Fame. Those guys are good constantly. They never win, and just like the Cavaliers, they deserve it. So Cleveland actually has it tough because the Browns, it's a really good sports town considering you guys never, ever, ever win a damn thing. All right. after them, the Seattle Mariners. Never even been to one. They've had errors like the Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson. We love that era. Most people, if you're a certain age, you've had a Mariners team in your lifetime that you really like. And they're good again now, although at least they were last year. They're struggling again some this year. Seattle fans they lost their basketball team. They do just got it in football, but baseball, the Mariners fans absolutely deserve it. This one goes back now over 50 years, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean, you're going back a long way down to 74 and 75 when they won their Stanley Cups. They are passionate fans. They love their teams. They go crazy for their teams. The Flyers absolutely deserve a Stanley Cup, just like maybe as much as Toronto. And if they don't win soon, them and some of these Islanders championships are about to come off the cup, because the cup is not infinitely big. After a certain amount of time, they remove the rings. And the Flyers and some of those early 80s Islanders championships, yeah, they're getting ready to get taken off the cup if they don't win another one soon. And this last one gives me some pause, and that's the New York Jets. Now, on the one hand with the New York Jets, those fans are loyal, and they go to that crap stadium each and every week to support a team that hasn't made the playoffs in forever. 2010? I mean, that's a long time to not make it, especially since the NFL has added wild card teams since then. Baseball has added as well, but football has expanded playoffs that didn't need to be expanded. Nobody even asked for that super wild card Monday crap that they give us anymore. No one cared about that, and the Jets still never make the playoffs. At the same time, they don't have any of the trouble that the Browns have. Okay, the Browns know if they don't go, they'll lose their team. The Baltimore Ravens were the Browns. We all know this history. If somehow you don't know, then now you know the history of it. They'll lose their team. Woody Johnson bought this team for like $600 million at the time. I looked it up, and at the time, that was a record amount of money. Their valuation right now, which means he'd sell it for more, is $6.9 billion, which means to buy it, because he doesn't need to sell it, you probably have to pay $8 or $9 billion to buy the Jets from him. So he's not going, and no one's moving out of New York City. They're going to stay there in the Meadowlands. They're going to stay there at that stadium that no one seems to like. We know that. But those fans always go even though they stink. So this is a tough spot for me, Jets fans, because I want to feel sympathy for you. But if I look at some of these other teams on the list, right, Browns fans have a gun to their head. They have to go. But Mets fans who are on the list, when the Mets stink, Mets fans don't go. They make it very clear to the ownership. In fact, part of the reason why they have a new owner who doesn't seem to be that much better than the last owner is because fans said, we're not going to support the team anymore as long as you're in charge. When do Jets fans take a stand? Because already when there's football buzz, we're talking about Mahomes being back already. Daniel Jones was at OTAs already throwing the ball after an Achilles surgery and stuff. No one's talking about the Jets, and no one has for over a decade. At what point do Jets fans put their damn foot down and say, we're not going until you're either good or Woody Johnson's out of here? Because that's the only way owners sell. You can't make an owner sell. The only way is to embarrass a billionaire. That's the only way, is to embarrass him. He's been embarrassing you for decades now, Jets fans. He's been embarrassing you pretty much since he's owned the team. He's been embarrassing you. At what point do you stand up for yourself and embarrass him and get him out of here? And I mean by him selling the team, because you know he's worth several billion. He can double his net worth by selling that team. So I don't know. So I'm going to let producer Ethan in my ear decide before we get back to the Knicks real fast. Do Jets fans do enough, in your opinion, Ethan, to deserve... Now, he says no, they should lose forever. He's a Giants fan, so that's a mistake. But I'm in a jam there with the Jets. I'm going to leave you on this list, okay? But I do think at some point you guys have to do something to make yourself not a joke. And you don't have the excuse that Cleveland has, well, if we don't support the team, they'll leave. Ain't nobody leaving New York. So how about you actually not go show up 70,000 for your team to win 3 games every year? Enough is enough. Going back to the Knicks. I respect these Knicks fans, and I even respect this Knicks team. I'm bitter that they swept my Sixers, but I respect the hell out of this Knicks situation right now. I have to admit something that I don't want to admit, but I always want to tell the audience the truth. I think a Knicks parade would be maybe the best parade this side of the Eagles' first parade. Look what's happening when they're winning regular playoff series on the screen. The American flag, people are climbing things they're not supposed to. Look at those streets, okay? If the Knicks win a championship, I'm saying it, I'm going to the parade. And I'm not a Knicks fan, I'm going to the parade. It is going to be perhaps the greatest party, not in the history of sports, it could be the greatest party in the history of parties. Okay, Woodstock's not going to have anything on this. So while I never root for the Knicks, I have to say it out loud. In an NBA final situation against the Thunder or the Spurs, I am rooting for the Knicks in large part because I want that party to happen because I love a party. And while I've seen the Yankees and the Giants, nothing in the world can top if the Knicks win a championship, and that's another reason why the Knicks deserve one, because they're about to party better than they ever have. Back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson here in for Craig Carton. Now, you know, something crazy has happened way quicker than I expected in the NBA. And I can't say that the guy is blameless in it, and we'll get to it in just a moment. But everybody remembers one calendar year ago when people were basically saying, oh, my God, Oklahoma City Thunder, this is the new dynasty. They have all these draft picks. They're going to win forever. And that was the popular thing to say. And then everybody, including one, Craig Carton at the time, was talking about how much they like SGA because he's so refreshing and it's not LeBron James, blah, blah, blah. That was 1 year ago. SGA was the toast of the town, okay? That Canadian was, oh, man, that guy's taking basketball A to the place where you never could imagine. And you fast forward to now, and all of a sudden, everybody hates him. Well, he does help bring it on himself. So now apparently his attorneys sent a cease and desist to Underdog Sports because they pointed out how much he flops. They have the thing unethical hoops there because of all the flopping that he does. So far in the playoffs this year, he has more free throws made than baskets made. He has not played great, but I do think tonight the Thunder do advance to the NBA Finals to face the Knicks on Wednesday. But as you can see right there, there's now a lawsuit, and they're saying that they're using his name, image, and likeness without permission, and are not official partner, blah, blah, blah. You're talking about him flopping. And already Underdog's attorneys have responded and said, we're not taking a damn thing down, and we're going to continue to do what they want. So your cease and desist, you're going to have to formally sue. They're ignoring the cease and desist. And most fans are going, so let me get this straight. If you go near SGA on the court, it's a foul. And now if you go near him and talk about it online, now he's going to sue you. Okay? And say what you want about LeBron James. To my knowledge, I don't know anybody he sued for making fun of him. In fact, I know a bunch of people who got made rich ripping LeBron, Skip Bayless, and a lot of other people out there who are rich now, in large part because of LeBron James. What the heck happened in a year with this SGA thing, okay? I thought he was everybody's sweetheart, and everybody loved him. It took 1 year for the world to turn on this guy. Now, is that because at the end of the day, we as a society like to build people up just to tear them down? There's something to be said for that. That's out there where what we like to do is we find a person that's our favorite. We build that person up. And as soon as he's everybody's favorite, then we have to tear him down and we pick a new person. Because right now, if you ask people who they like more, Wemby or SGA, and you ask 1,000 people, it might be 1,000 to 0 on Wemby's side. And I'm sure if Wemby then goes up, there'll then be people who want to tear him down as well. At the same time, SGA has got to stop this, okay? And the referees have got to stop allowing it, okay? When we watch this game tonight between the Spurs and the Thunder, elimination game, the Thunder can advance or the Spurs will force a Game 7, and we'll all be excited, of course, to watch a Game 7 before we get to the NBA Finals. We know we want the players to decide it, okay? If you're an OKC fan, fine, you don't care about the refs. But every other city in America, you're hoping for just a clean basketball game, a high-quality basketball game that's hopefully close in the last minute, and we get a great ending. Okay, we saw how good Game 1 was of this series. We saw what happened with the Knicks with that crazy comeback against the Cavaliers. We want the players to decide it. And however it falls, if you're not rooting for one of the other teams, who cares? But now the Thunder now feel like a team that has a built-in advantage and a team that everybody was afraid of and a team that everybody seemed to love 1 year ago. They now all hate them this year, and they should. And they should. And suing people because you flop is not the way to go, SGA. You know what you could do is just play basketball. Or you just flop it and just go to the foul line and shut up about it. But to sue people about it, this is a problem. And all of a sudden, a team, again, a year ago, which was going to be everybody's favorite, and they're going to be this big dynasty. First of all, the Knicks could beat them, and they might stop at 1. The Spurs could beat them this year, but I tell you what, the Spurs will beat them next year. This OKC thing is so fleeting, and that includes SGA's ownership of the league. We know he has 2 MVPs with Wemby's emergence and Luka and other guys, but Wemby, Cade Cunningham, and all those guys. Do we expect SGA to get a third? I don't think any of us do. This is sort of the end of the road when it comes to this Thunder's team in a way, and they'll still be good. They'll still be in the mix. But they no longer look like a team that's going to win 3, 4, 5, a million championships. And they already traded some of those draft picks. They had to trade some of them to get Jared McCain, who's helping them now. But that treasure trove of draft picks are now slowly getting, chipped away here and there in other moves they have to do. And they're about to get expensive. But it's crazy that SGA was everybody's favorite 1 year ago, and he's not anymore. And we all know they would pick Wemby over him as far as popularity. But I'll say this. LeBron James is back to be more popular than SGA. And I don't mean more popular in jersey sales. I bet you if you ask 1,000 random fans, they like LeBron, who people said was a flopper. He hasn't done any flopping compared to SGA. SGA is a soccer-level flopper. Okay? And it's really put you guys in a bind, hasn't it? It really put you in a bind. So let me ask you out there, I'll say it right now. Who do you like more on the court right now? Because I know what you said a year ago. Oh, SGA does it the right way. I wish my team had him. Oh, we love him. He's so wholesome. Get that LeBron James guy out of here. Get that Curry guy out of here. SGA's our guy. Oh, the Clippers were so dumb. All that talk now. Fast forward now. Do any of you like SGA anymore? I know I don't. I know I'll be actively rooting against SGA this year. I don't like SGA at all. He's one of my least favorite athletes in all the sports right now, okay? I dislike him more than the guy who wanted to cut my tongue out. That's how much I dislike SGA. Yeah, a guy wanted to cut my tongue out. He said it out loud. I like SGA less than him. But let me ask you, who would you pick right now? Who would you pick right now? Okay, if you were ranking your most favorite player to watch in the NBA, do you like that style? Or do you long for the days when LeBron James was making the finals every year with pure basketball by just hooping and being great? Now, those days are behind him, but don't tell me you'd rather watch this flop fest you've been watching with Oklahoma City where you're getting no flow in these games and it's whistle, 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 whistle as he dives on the ground. This has showed you be careful what you wish for, people. We were looking for a guy to take the league going forward, and we got him, but it was not SGA. The guy we had to take the league forward plays for the Spurs, and that will start next year, his reign of terror. But right now, I'm telling you what, this is another reason why I have to root for the Knicks, because Jalen Brunson is way more likable than the SGA, who has become one of the least likely and the least likable players in all of sports.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. I'm just looking at this so I can give somebody some credit online. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig Carton. So I have to show you this video because this actually, this case finally got finished up yesterday, but it's one of the more ridiculous things that it had to become a case. I'll just let the video speak for itself, and then imagine if you, I will say this as the little tease, imagine any of us having a chance here if we had both arms. Go ahead and show the video there.
This is why you're being pulled over. The city of Lake Worth today, we're doing an operation for distracted driver, and you drove past me holding the phone with your right hand, manipulating that phone. I mean, I saw you with the phone in your hand.
Obviously not. So you want to just call this a day? Or?
I don't want to call it a day. You had a hand up manipulating the phone.
You just said my right hand.
Well, I thought I saw you with your right hand. You
so
had a
you
hand
didn't.
out. The right hand. I saw you manipulate.
So you didn't?
With the right hand, perhaps not, right?
But I saw you didn't see me with my right hand.
Okay, so are you
saying that you saw me with my right hand?
I know what I just said. I'm asking you now. Did you or not have your phone on your hand?
I did not.
You did not have your phone in your hand?
I did not.
Hand to God, you didn't have your phone in your hand.
Hand to God.
The other hand to God, you didn't have your phone in your hand.
Hand to God.
Cool. You have your driver's license, registration,
yes,
and insurance?
Yes, so even the cop just lied, okay? I'm not sugarcoating like some other people where he missaw. No, the cop's a damn liar, and he showed up and lied. The woman didn't have a damn right hand. He said he was manipulating the phone with a right hand. Well, the reason we're just saying this, she had a recorder going from inside the car, I believe, for safety. She has different apparatuses so that she's able to drive. She's online where she has unbalanced on Instagram because she doesn't have an arm, so unbalanced. And she makes a bunch of jokes about it and things like that. But she could not have possibly had her phone out. Well, she went to court yesterday and they dismissed the case. But yes, he still wrote the ticket. He still wrote the ticket for manipulating his phone with her right hand when she didn't have one. So imagine any of us who have both arms, how we would get out of one of those situations. They dropped it for lack of evidence. But literally, when she first had to plea, and they asked her if she wanted to plead guilty, she said no. They delayed this case. This actually happened a couple months ago. But finally, yesterday, the charges were dropped. And again, I'm not speaking on all police officers. I want to make that clear. Not even at that department. But that guy's a damn liar, and that guy shouldn't be a cop, okay? How do you see the woman with no hand and still write her a ticket? How do you sleep at night if you do something like that? Again, I'm not talking about all cops. I'm not talking about all cops in that town. But that particular cop should not be a cop, because if he'll lie on her, what else will he lie about? I'm sorry. It's hard for me to let stuff like that go. Thankfully, she fought it, had a good sense of humor, got a few 100,000 views on social media, and hopefully she does well in life from it. But she should not have had to go through that. And that officer, forget firing him, how is he not resigned? You're a loser. You're a loser. You're harassing the handicapped. That's not protecting and serving, you idiot. You should not be allowed in polite society if you're that damn stupid. That's all for the soapbox on that one. Now, FIFA, there's been a lot of talk about that. We're now only a couple weeks away. It's going to take over the world. We know how big soccer is in the world, and it's going to take over America. A lot of people, although there's been, unfortunately, diminishing tourism for whatever reason, some people from overseas have not wanted to come to America for whatever reason, but it's going to be huge. Well, apparently now, finally, after all this surge pricing and all this stuff, and tickets not being sold out, despite the prices being so crazy, the state of New York and the state of New Jersey and the city of New York are all suing FIFA to release the books. And I say bravo, because you cannot have a situation where prices are artificially hiked in America. Now, you can do that other places, but there are some laws, and we see what happens with Ticketmaster, and they lose a lawsuit every single day. But I'm glad someone's looking into it, not because of the corporations, but for all the regular people out there that might want to take their kids to a soccer game. They can't afford it, and no one seems to understand why they can't afford it. That is super, super annoying. And another thing that got buried is the Cavaliers, as you saw, they got swept by the Knicks, and James Harden said out loud that he thought they were the better team, even though they lost in 4. And Kenny Atkinson, the head coach, said that analytically, even though they were down 0-3, they had won 2 of 3 games. You remember those guys? Yeah, they're both back. They're running it back in Cleveland. And if it wasn't for the LeBron championship, they might have made our list earlier in the show. If you're Dan Gilbert, he's still in charge of the Cavaliers, and we know he won his championship solely because of LeBron, not because of his expertise. How do you sell to fans or to humans or to puppies or to aliens? Running it back with the same coach in James Harden after you just got swept and you're over the salary cap. How does this help them keep Donovan Mitchell? How does that do anything? Again, today his theme has been, I feel bad for certain kind of fans. I think Cleveland fans have it terribly. But how does Kenny Atkinson keep his job? And how does James Harden get a contract extension after how that season ended? It showed you why a lot of organizations talk about wanting to win. Very few make the moves necessary to win, and it is disgraceful that the Cavs are running it back. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. I really, really appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll talk to everybody tomorrow at 11.
Now
now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on Sports.